mics are on anyway.
No, we're good. Well, behind the clock behind you says 7, so.
That clock's fast.
Is it?
About 2 minutes.
It's all good. Dear me. Took the clock off.
The orientation, we didn't cover this. Once the recording goes on, obviously your mics are recording, but these are very sensitive mics. If you even talking or whispering to your neighbor, it's probably gonna pick it up, and that's gonna end up on the state website, so keep that in mind.
Okay.
If you wanna talk to your neighbor, the mics are set up to mute. You actually have to push on the button and hold it to mute the button. So if you wanna have a little side conversation, you can just remember to mute the mics so it doesn't end up.
Okay. Thank you.
So
Okay.
at dinner.
It is now. Plus, I heard there's some candy in these drawers, right? So,
And they're there.
You need to be.
oh, we got the wrong drawer.
You're hard up, buddy. That's all I got. Okay, well, let's get started with our council meeting. We welcome you here. We welcome our new 3 city councilmen, council people. Sorry, Mindy. We appreciate you being here, and we just had their swearing-in ceremony just a few minutes ago, and we're very proud and excited to have them here with us. Normally, we have in a work session, we have the opportunity to ask the person to pray or to give the pledge. We haven't. So if Councilman Jensen would give our opening prayer, and then we'll ask Councilman Wright to, Councilperson Wright, I'm going to get it. I'm going to get corrected here. To give a pledge, we would appreciate it, and we'll go to that point.
Our Father in heaven, we're grateful that we can meet here this evening, start of the year of 2024. We're grateful for the fine country that we live in the city where we can enjoy such privileges. We're grateful for the new council folk that have come to join us, Mindy, Jake, and Logan. We're appreciative for their willingness to serve and hope that we can do the best we can to keep our city great. Thankful for all of the many things that we have been blessed with here in this country and city. And these things we say in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
If you'll stand and say the pledge with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I need a motion for approval of the agenda. Okay, I need a motion for approval of the agenda as outlined.
I motion to approve the meeting's agenda as written or with additions or deletions as follows.
Okay, have a motion?
I'll second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, let me just quickly go through the calendar. January 9th, we have a work session only, and 16th is a regular meeting with our work session before at 5:30. On the 15th is Martin Luther King Day, and the building will be closed. And we have budget meetings on the 29th and 30th at 6 p.m. The first day, the 29th, really principally is for the 3 new council people so that they can be able to kind of be brought up to speed a little more on the process of budgeting and kind of how it works and a little bit of the accounting side. And spend most of the evening talking a little bit about that. The budget meeting on the 30th starts at 3 o'clock and depends on how long they want to talk. It could be short, it could be long, and usually it's a very, very good meeting. The meetings that we've had have been very well put together. So anyway, just put that on your calendar if you wouldn't mind.
So just for clarification, Mike and I do not need to attend.
You do not have
that
to,
Monday?
no. You can if you want to, but it's not.
Yeah, with 3
Unnecessary.
council members, it'll be a meeting, so you're
Yeah.
welcome. But it's gonna be covering budget basics that you've had for several years.
Yep. And if you come, bring treats.
Drinks.
Drinks, yeah, there you go. We have a chance because it's a public meeting. If anybody here wants to make a public comment, they're welcome to do that. Kim has the forms, if you wouldn't mind filling those forms out. It's to help us in recording the people and their names and addresses and whatnot, and really the purpose for their making comments to the council. We can't take any official action, but we certainly can listen to anybody who would like to express themselves. Looks like we have one. Okay, we have, is it Kayla Burchett? Is that correct? From Woodland? Kayla? Wonderful.
Well, forgive me for reading what I want to say. I tend to be a nervous speaker, so
You're good.
Written it down.
Just so you know, Kayla, everybody that steps up to that pulpit is nervous.
thank you.
Even Chief Haight gets nervous when he steps up there.
Thank you. And thank you for letting me speak to you. I am not currently a resident of Springville, but my husband is an employee of Springville City, which is what has brought me to this meeting today. I'm here to advocate for a change in the city's employment policies, specifically regarding the absence of unpaid leave for the city's employees. My husband, as I said, is an employee of Springville City and has been working with the city for about 4 months. His supervisor has expressed to him and his coworkers multiple times that they cannot take a sick day unless they have accrued sufficient paid time off to cover it. Should they stay home sick without PTO, he has been told they will be terminated. Exceptions can be approved by the city administrator, but the supervisor suggested that the administration was highly unlikely to grant such an appeal. Recently, one of his coworkers came to work obviously sick. When told to go home, the employee expressed, "I would like to, but I don't have enough PTO," to which his supervisor responded, "Then that sucks for all of us." Several days after that, my husband came down with COVID, likely from that exposure at work. Not only did he get sick, but he also spread his illness to myself, causing me to miss work and pay, and to our 6-month-old daughter. Luckily, my mother, with whom we live and who has stage 4 cancer and is waiting on an open heart surgery right now, was away from home and didn't catch the illness. If the city allowed sick employees to stay home and recover, this illness would not have spread to another employee's family. Additionally, once my husband contracted the illness, he became very sick for 2 weeks. He asked his supervisor if he could stay home and was told he had 1 day of PTO, so that was how long he could stay out. So he used his day, then went to work sick for a couple of days. But his illness kept getting worse instead of better. Finally, when he could barely get himself out of bed, he decided that he had to stay home. I saw this good, hardworking man in tears because he was afraid he would lose his job and his ability to provide for our family due to staying home from an illness that he had likely picked up at work. That's enough of our own personal experience. Allow me to underscore the financial implications of this policy. In my husband's department, terminating an employee triggers a cost exceeding $1,000 to hire and train a replacement. From a pragmatic standpoint, this policy seems counterintuitive and financially inefficient. Furthermore, we cannot ignore the toll this policy takes on productivity and employee morale. Sick employees cannot perform at their best, and the fear of termination discourages honest communication about health concerns. This policy directly undermines the culture of well-being and fairness that we aspire to cultivate within a city workforce. Moreover, this policy places an undue burden on employees who diligently accrue paid time off for personal matters such as family vacations, only to face the fear of losing that hard-earned time if they fall ill. This not only creates anxiety among employees, but also jeopardizes our city's goal of fostering a supportive and loyal workforce. Additionally, a policy that requires city employees to prove that they are actually ill with a doctor's note not only expresses a lack of trust in the city's hardworking employees, but also is a financial burden to employees with high deductible insurance plans who are already missing pay for being out of work sick. In conclusion, I ask the council to reconsider this policy. Let us strive for a more compassionate, modern, and sensible approach that prioritizes the health and well-being of the workforce while maintaining the fiscal responsibility we all value. It's not only the humane choice, but a decision that will enhance employee morale, retention, and ultimately contribute to a healthier, more productive Springville City. And if I have misunderstood the policies regarding the sick leave, I would also love to express that it would be equally beneficial to council supervisors to allow their employees to stay home without threats of being terminated. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. We appreciate it. And there's a gentleman right over here, Patrick Money, who can talk with you after. And he's with Human Resources, and I think he can address some of your questions and concerns and thoughts. And we appreciate you sharing those. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a ceremony swearing in. Chief Haid, would you like to come up?
Mayor and members of the council, it's my great pleasure tonight to swear in our newest member of the police department, Officer Danielle Spots. I'd like to have her come forward. Just stand here, face that audience there. Yep. And raise your right arm. And then repeat after me. I solemnly swear. I will support, obey, and defend. The Constitution of the United States. The Constitution of the State of Utah. And the laws and ordinances. Of the City of Springville. I swear I will. Faithfully and impartially. Enforce the laws. Of the United States. The State of Utah. And the City of Springville. I swear I will. Abide by. The law enforcement code of ethics. And the policies and procedures. Of the Springville Police Department. I take this oath freely and promise that I will discharge the duties of my profession with honor and fidelity. So help me God. All right, congratulations.
That's great. Wonderful. Would you like to share a few words with us? And you do not have to if you don't want to. You're totally okay. You're going to pass on it. That's great. Well, we'd like to welcome her family. We appreciate them being here and on this special occasion. So thank you very much and welcome to Springville. We're very grateful for you. And you'll want to get a good look at this guy right here because he's the one that speeds around town. So just make sure you pull him over.
I won't play my card, I promise. So where are you from, though? Where are you from? I live in Springville. Oh. South Jordan, and you're going to move, though? Here, maybe? Oh, sweet. Good deal.
That's good.
That's good to have you. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move to the regular agenda and talk a little bit about, I think each of you had a chance to be able to hopefully put some thoughts together in relationship to what it is that you would like to see happen over the next couple of years. As Troy and I was talking about this, we thought, you know, if you have one or two, or I don't know, hopefully not 10 things, but if you have something that you would like to accomplish, we would certainly like to be able to hear it. And this is in a public forum, and so we appreciate you just sharing it. Maybe not only what it is that you'd like to accomplish, but why, so that we can get a little bit better idea. And again, if there's nothing, if you're just happy to be here, that's okay too. But I'm sure that there's things that you've run on, and also the reason why you would stay around and that sort of thing. So we welcome those that input. So I'm not sure who to pick first. I'll start with Jake on this left side. How's that?
That's great. Wonderful. We'll get it over with. I mean, really, I just hope to accomplish, what'd you say, in the next 2 years? Or whenever?
Well, the only reason I said 2 years is because in 2 years, you may not have another turnover. And so you kind of have these 2-year blocks of time. You're going to be here 4 years, but the dynamics change in 2 years because there may be other people that were involved. So anyway, that's the reason I said 2 years. So
Great. I hope to learn my duties as a city councilman in the next 2 years, honestly. But learning the budget, zoning, planning, all of those things is, I think, important. If we're talking about maybe pet projects or things that I'm really interested in, public safety obviously is pretty important to me. I'd like to, understand their needs and make sure they have all the equipment and that we can retain them to the best of our abilities. And I'd love to be involved in the emergency management plan a little bit more. And really, I'd love to be involved in programming for youth and young adults. And then finally, just kind of, I'm very interested in preserving Springville's history. You know, whether that be parks, memorials, art, or whatever it takes. I'm very interested in that. And I really want to get to know all the directors and understand their departments better. You know, that's important to me, and that's pretty much, I'm just happy to be here. And unless you're saying you want to know my magic wand, if I had a magic wand, what things that I would do, that's pretty much all I've got.
No, not at all. Not at all. Well, we've got you on the community board, and so that actually works with public safety, so that ties in quite well, and also the look and feel of Springville, so that's very, very good. Good. Okay, wonderful. Mr. Jensen.
Online, huh? So, when I saw that information or that you had requested, and I reflected before I looked forward to kind of see what we'd done in the last 6 years as Mike and I have been here. And, there were some things that really stood out. I mean, believe it or not, we didn't have a Smith's when Mike and I started. There's some people in this room that helped bring it here, but Smith's opened since we were here. I remember when I was running that first time, they asked for a Cafe Rio in Springville. That was a big deal. And now it seems like Cafe Rio's been there forever. So if you look at what's happened over the last 6 years, that's kind of where it started. Another one that I think was really cool is we got the logo. I don't know if any of you remember that, but that was something that first council did that I think's made a change. It's made our city, it's kind of given us a little recognition, so to speak. But those are some of the things that I look back on. I've got a whole list. Patrick, the other day when they were leaving, and he had that list of what had happened over the term, there were a lot of items on there that were also on my list. But those are just a few I thought of. As we move forward, what's going to happen in the next 2 years that will probably just become, oh, wow, yeah, when did that happen? I think the new high school is going to be something that as a council and as a city that we need to wrap around, because that's a game changer for our city. It's going to change traffic patterns. It's just going to change the way of life for us and our families. So that's one that I think we need to kind of keep on the forefront. One that's probably even larger than that will change our city is the 1600 South interchange. I know we call it 1600 South. I'm assuming it's going to become the Dry Creek interchange before long, because it is as important to Mapleton and Spanish Fork as it is our city. In fact, I would dare say it's more important to them. But that's something that I think we really need to stay focused on as a council and as a city. Along with that, though, and I think this can, I don't know, there's no magic wand for it, but when you look at how we get from 51 to 89, Spanish Fork has done a pretty good job of jumping over the tracks, and that's made a difference. We probably need to figure out something as well. Again, it's not something that we can do just as a Springville city, but we should keep a focus on that. Another one along those lines is the access to Highway 6. What we're finding is that people are bouncing through our city to get to Highway 6, and it's going to be a problem. I like going up Highway 6 myself, and it's not as easy as it used to be. Even 6 months ago, let it go 6 years ago. So Highway 6 is it's not in our city, but it's a major we have intersects that go up through Highway 6. What else do I got here? Park completion. We've got some great parks that need a little bit more work. I know Councilman Miller was really, really big on Centennial and getting that one moving forward. I don't want that candle to burn out. I think I said Centennial, I meant Community, excuse me. But I think Community Park still needs some focus. And I feel bad because I think we let our focus go away from that for a little bit. And I think we owe it to the citizens that have requested Community Park to be improved. I see what's going on at Memorial Park, and I think we're doing great things there. The new tennis courts, the improvements that we're making there as we named that after Alan Curtis, I think that is a great thing. I think we need to definitely continue to walk what we've talked, though, because it's real easy to make promises, but it'll be nice to see that all the way through, because it's a beautiful area. I might be just a little biased to that area, but I really like it. From here, I pretty much get into the weeds. There are little things like we've talked on and off about our wide streets and how we use them. I personally like what we're doing on 2nd South. the way we use that wide street. We create parking, we create a lot of different things that way. We've had a couple of presentation over the years of how we can use some of our wide streets, but that's more in the weeds than maybe we want to get into tonight, but something along those lines I'd like to talk about. Obviously, there's the Allen's Block and what we can and can't do to move that a little forward, because that's a gateway to our city that it's been sick. Well, it closed since you and I, right? Allen's was open 6 years ago.
No.
But it was on its way of closing. I think maybe it was closed. Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Burger King
Well, yeah. It was. It's sad though, guys. I mean, I'm happy that we don't have a dollar store and a vape shop there, but we could, if we're, I mean,
It could
Anyhow.
have happened easy.
it could have, would have, should have, and then just other things like heights and parking restrictions. I'm kidding. I was gonna go. I'm done. So that's my 2 bits.
You want me to put that down?
Yeah, heights. I'm thinking, what did we say, Josh? 73?
Stories?
8, 9, yeah. Yeah, story. Dude, I'd like, yeah, we'll talk later.
Very good. Very good. Logan?
Well, I mean, I'm pretty excited. There's just a lot of really good momentum in the city that we've been working on lots of different plans. There's the Arts Master Plan, there's the Station Area Plan, there's the Revitalizing Downtown Plan, the Main Street South Gateway Zone, the Main Street North Gateway Zone is now underway. So there's a lot of really good momentum, a lot of really good ideas. I'm excited to be part of helping turn those into reality. I'm really excited for, like, example, the Revitalizing Downtown Plans 1,000-day implementation that the community department kind of created, and I'm excited to kind of see those dominoes fall one at a time, and hopefully we can fill in some of the empty gaps on our main street, make it a really nice place for all of us to be and shop, and feel like we're really, really, really proud of our main street.
Now, you mentioned downtown. What else? You mentioned another one?
Of the different plans?
Yes.
I mentioned, let's see, I wrote down, kind of scribbled up here, the active transportation plan, Main Street South, Main Street North, the 1600 South plan. I know that Emily and her team are working on an arts master plan. I don't know if the Lakeside Landing is going to be such a big project for Springville, and so it kind of feels to me like its own master plan. So yeah, there's just so many different things. The power department is currently mapping out exactly where and all of their equipment is, and like how old it is and when it might need refurbishment. So there's just a lot of details, and I think we have a lot of good people helping us keep track of all those details and bring these plans to fruition. People sometimes think of me as the bike guy because I am very much an advocate for bicycling and walking and transit and alternative modes of transportation. I think that will pay dividends for us going forward in terms of air quality and the feeling of our community and public safety. And so I'm very interested in anytime that there's a place where maybe we can improve a crosswalk that lets kids get to and from school. I'm interested in being part of that, of course. But that's not a surprise to anyone who knows me. I'm also very interested in the housing crisis. I think it's becoming very dire for young people, especially who are looking to start their own families, or kids who are trying to leave the nest, and it's financially impossible for them. And so I think we need to get creative about how we fit more homes into our city without radically changing the feeling of our city. And that will require kind of some of that getting into the weeds a little bit on, even on things like parking requirements, but zoning and setbacks and, floor to area ratios, some of those things that some people might consider boring, but I think are very important. And I think that if we're planning in that way, thinking of the next generation, thinking what do they need, and placing, some of their needs ahead of our own present day needs, I think that everybody wins. We win and the next generation wins. But yeah, so street safety and housing, I think, are kind of the two things that are always top of mind for me. But I'm always interested in making sure that those concerns dovetail with all the plans that all the departments and all of our employees and all of our residents are working on and trying to make the city better.
Very good. Very good. Mike?
Well, like Craig, when this topic was brought up, I, like Craig, did a lot of reflection to see where we'd been and what we'd done and how we got to where we have been. Craig outlined a lot of stuff, so I'm not going to take a lot of time on all that. But there are a few things that I would like to mention that are a pretty big deal to me. The bike park is going in and just about complete. I want to see that through to fruition. We accomplished the active transportation plan, which Logan alluded to, and we've done a lot of work down in the Dry Creek area to fix that Dry Creek Park down there, which I'm very happy about. And as I take a look at those things, we've built a park, we've built several master plans. In addition to the active transportation, we've done all the others. We're working on the 1600 South plan, the Main Street plan, and other master plans that have been very important. We just need to make sure that momentum keeps moving forward the way that those plans have worked, and not just let them be a plan without movement, without work, without progress being made on them. Logan mentioned housing. I've got that on my list as well. I hesitate to call it affordable housing, but I prefer to call it housing that actually works. And so I think we need to take a look at helping people get into housing through zoning and building the kind of housing that these young people can actually make work for themselves. A couple other things. I think we need to continue to focus on zoning, and we need to be able to make it easier for businesses to locate here in town. We often hear that Springville is difficult to work with. Well, I'm okay with difficult to work with as long as we're not burdensome to work with. Hard to work with, difficult to work with, that's okay. We get what we want that way without just giving away the farm, so to speak. But I think being burdensome is detrimental to businesses coming to town. I would really like to see us be a resource to these businesses that are coming to town and help them get here, help them navigate the code. And if we have codes that need to be fixed, let's fix the codes. But let's get businesses in here and make it easier for them to locate. I'm really excited about the 1600 South plan, but like Craig, we need to get to 89. And so we've got to work hard on that. We've got to work with the state to get that done. That's a state thing. There's not a lot we can do about it, but if we can, it's a great start to get to 51, but we've got to get out to 89. And that'll help even get to the high school. If you go up 1600, you go up 1600 north in Mapleton, drop down to 12th east, and that takes us right into the high school. And so it's a vital link that needs to be made, and I think we need to maintain that. And there's a lot of other things, but those are some of the main things that I think we really need to focus on and take a look at to help build the city.
Excellent.
Well, I just
Indy.
want to say that everybody has touched on something that I feel is very equally as important, and our parks are community park, the bike park, our walking trails, our active transportation plans, our revitalizing downtown. Each of these are very important pieces that I want to see continue to move forward with. I think that we do have some great plans that are set and ready for us to just now take action on. So with starting of our new budget year, these are things that we can now kind of have a little bit of sway to make some forward movement on. The one thing that I want, that I'd like to see is the diversity of our housing, like Logan and Mike have said, as well as diversity of our businesses as we grow. Like the Dry Creek or the 1600 South plan, I'd really want that to make sure that that is an area that allows for a lot of different diversity in those areas, housing and business-wise. The last thing that I would like to see is maybe a community development relationships, where we can work on relationships with our different counterparts, ones with UDOT, ones with the owners of the property, the business owners, the developers, all stakeholders within that help to make Springville better. And I feel like we can build on those and have better relationships with every one of them.
Very good. Anybody want to add anything that maybe sparked something as we were talking or others were talking?
I would like to hear from you.
Me?
Yeah.
I was not prepared, so I'm going to defer since I'm in charge of the agenda. No, I think as we think about the next 2 years, really, I think over the next 4 years, we talk about this diversity of housing and the ability to do housing. I think Lakeside Landing is going to be a great example of seeing if we did we did the right thing, and we did it in a way that was not only appealing from a look standpoint, but also in making it so that there was more affordability, if you will. And so I think that, you know, this stuff takes time to go through, but I think Lakeside Landing, and I don't remember how many units are down at Lakeside Landing, but there's a lot. 2,000, is it? Something like that. And so these ideas that you're talking about, and we have, over the next 2 years, I think it's going to be incredibly critical for Josh to work with us to get the zoning now right on 1600 South and everything south to make sure that it has the look and the feel of what we'd like to see happen there, so that we get out ahead of the developer and rather have to have this big, long discussion with the developer about things and try to guess our way through it, that we've got a pretty good master plan, because there's, I don't remember how many acres down there, how many, 1,000 acres? So there's like 1,000 acres down there that we really ought to make sure we get right and get it done right. So I think over the next 2 years, that's going to be critical to do. And I don't think we have to do anything radical. I think that we have to look very carefully at what we did at Lakeside Landing and see if there is something we can duplicate there. I am so in lockstep with plans. I mean, the shelves are full of plans. And I just think that we need to take personal ownership of the areas that we're responsible for. And if we have, if you're on the park committee, you need to take active transportation as a responsibility to try to not only encourage the promotion of it, but also from a budget standpoint, talk a little bit about it. Now, it's easy to spend money, but you have to find the money to be able to accomplish all the things that we need to do. And that becomes really, really challenging. And so that's going to be a big discussion in the budget, is to try to get your head around not only what it is we want to accomplish, but also how you're going to fund it. Because if you don't have the funds for it, it's just nothing but a dream and a plan. So we're going to try really hard to present something that will be workable. But I just love the thought process of being able to have action plans. I really appreciated Josh in having this 1,000-day plan for downtown. And I think that just needs to be done. Now, that's a lot of work, and there's a lot going on, but doing that for active transportation, I think, is a very, very good thing. Let's see, what else did somebody touch on? I would just maybe go a little bit further in what Minnie was talking about, and that's in relationship to developing relationships. Springville's just been so good about just ducking their head and going. And we don't want to let up on that kind of a pedal, but there are wonderful relationships that we need to continue to develop, whether it's, as you described, UDOT, UTA, MAG, the governor, our representatives, even our congressional people. We need to develop the relationships so they know in a kind way who we are, and that we can pick up a phone and talk with whoever, Senator McCall, and say, Senator, we are just in trouble on this issue. Is there something you can do to help us? I can tell you that a couple of you talked about the access in Mapleton, and there is nothing in the 2050 road plan that says there's going to be a road up there. Now, 2050, a lot of you are going to be alive, but I'm going to be dead by 2050. And my point is that there is no plan on anybody's board to put a road in there. And in order for that to actually happen, you're going to have to legislate additional money, which ties into these relationships of getting Representative White and Senator McHale and all of our people to try to talk a little bit about it. And they're now actively talking about it. But we need to develop it past the point of just discussion to where there's things that actually perhaps get some money appropriated for it. And I think that would be just a wonderful thing for Mapleton, and it would certainly help Springville and Spanish Fork. So those are just my thoughts, Mike. I hope that kind of touched on it. But I totally agree with what you're accomplishing or trying to accomplish over the next 2 years.
Can I just say one more thing
Yeah,
about
please.
that very,
Yeah.
about 1600 South? 1600 South wasn't on anybody's plan either until there was a legislator that decided it needed to be there.
Yep.
And so that's exactly what you're talking about. We need to convince those legislators that needs to happen. And I think once they see the mess that's created by ending that at 51, I think we'll have a lot more leverage to move those legislators to that point.
Totally agree. Totally agree. And we have to actively do it. In fact, we have, Nicole has 2 meetings set up for our legislators, and that's exactly what we need to be talking to them about are these issues, what's on our mind, and this certainly should be one of them.
It's a unique dance that we play though, because if we over plan, then it won't happen. So sometimes you do have to build it, and they will come, and then you'll adjust. So my concern with some of it, specifically 1600, is that ad nauseum we have talked about it. Now let's get something done. And to your point, Mike, it will create a problem, but then that problem will have to be solved. If you look at like Provo Canyon access, that's a nightmare, right? And it always has been. And back in the early 1900s, they probably didn't have a city council that said this is painful. We can't get up the Provo Canyon, but there's no highway that goes to Provo Canyon. There should be a highway that goes to Highway 6. I think. I still go up Provo Canyon when I'm going to Wyoming and stuff, and it's not great. Highway 6 is becoming the same. So to that point, but the sooner I think we get 16 to dump and create a mess, maybe the increase the chances that we'll do it. But we have to. And one concern I have though with Springville in general is there's not that many here in the audience, but we always hear this look and feel of Springville, and I used to just kind of roll my eyes a little bit. But now that it's been 6 years, I don't roll them quite as much, because there is a unique look and feel to Springville that we will be going away from, because when Lakeside Landing and 1600 South happen, we won't all be Red Devils. Spanish Fork has had that transition. Now they've got Eagles and Dons, and it's ripping the city in a way because their look and feel has changed so much. I think that's going to happen to our city. And at first I was like, oh, bring it on. But I think we have to consciously understand that when we bring a Lakeside Landing in, when we bring in a 1600 South and all those homes and stuff that'll be out there, our look and feel will change. We won't all know each other anymore. We were talking about this just in the hallway mere moments ago, but it's something that we have to deal with, or we could just say no. And sometimes maybe
Yeah,
it's
maybe
not.
it's not that bad.
I probably have been on Mayor more than I should have. Say, let's say yes to some of this, but sometimes maybe our look and feel is more important than our development. I don't know.
Yeah, and I guess the thing to me, Craig, is that I think it's critical that we decide what that is to look like rather than have somebody else do it. And yeah, because it could be different on one block as opposed to another. And I think it's just critical that we do the best we can for that look and feel. And I think we've tried to do it on Lakeside Landing, and I think we just need to really push it into 1600, because it's like how many streetlights? What do the streetlights look like? How high, and what's the look and the feel? Is there brick? Is there stucco? Is there aluminum siding? Whatever the case is. So
But regardless, it will change our city.
it is.
Because,
There's no question.
I've always thought, well, it's going to change no matter what. So no matter what kind of stoplights or what kind of facade we put on the building, it's going to change our look and feel.
It will, and part of the challenge of the council, whether it's this council or any other council, is to bring those factions together. We've got Lakeside that's split off by the freeway. We've got the West Fields that are split off by the railroad tracks. And then we've got the east side of the railroad tracks. Mm-hmm. So how does that council, whenever it is, whoever it is, bring all that together and help everybody feel like Springville?
That's, I mean,
It's a huge challenge.
Can I just say that it is a challenge, but I think other cities, like you mentioned, Spanish Fork, have experienced it. But this is where we can talk with other cities. How have they handled this? What have they done? Because I don't think we're the first one, and I don't think we'll be the last. But we can definitely get ideas and from other cities that have experienced this.
oh, I think you're right. We're on the
implement them.
tail end. We're on the tail end, not on the, I mean, you
Yes.
look at Lehigh. I mean,
Yeah, there's a new experience.
they're, what about the pioneers? Who
Yeah,
are they?
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and then we've seen complete cities like just Saratoga Springs, Eagle Mountain. I mean, it's crazy. But and even our own Spanish Fork it's pretty different.
Here's one, I mean, not to give an example, but Eagle Mountain. You know, you talk about the pass, Cedar Pass, as opposed to downtown. I mean, people are talking about, is that proper? Is that the pass? I mean, those are two different cities entirely. And now it's combining, but back in the day, they were this massive city and they had little developments everywhere. So I just wanted to end, go ahead, Logan,
I
sorry.
was just going to add something. I know that as our city grows, there will be different geographical divisions. Maybe there will be new high school divisions, and I don't think that necessarily means that we'll feel like separate cities so long as we're focusing on new things that bring us together. You know, the city's changed a lot since I moved here as a kid. It's certainly changed a lot since you were a kid, and yet it still feels like Springville and feels like a special place compared to other cities. I think that even if our city doubled in population, we could still find ways to make it feel like one city. You know, things like Art City Days bring us together. Things like the festivals and farmers markets and meeting your neighbor at the grocery store. So I think as long as we're focusing on ways to knit our community together, we don't have to lose that small town feel no matter how big we grow.
Yeah, we used to drive cattle through town when I was a kid. So I just want to touch on one last thing, and that is that, and I'm very sensitive about this, and that is public safety. We've spent a lot of money on public safety, and it's very critical to do. And it goes to, some of you have heard me talk about the bullseye, and you have to be very mindful of making sure that you have the right resources to do what you need to do. And that is not to slight anybody else, but you just have to make sure that you are appropriate. It's really uncomfortable, and but I've had certainly more than one person say, you know, since you've been mayor, there's been a lot of people get killed. And I think to myself, they're exactly right. Now, every one of them are independent, and they're different, and they all have different causes to them. But I don't want to lose the perception in our town that it is unsafe. Once you lose that, I think you've lost a lot of what Springville's all about. So I just remind us how important it is to be very, very careful of public safety, and that has to do with fire and ambulance and that sort of thing. So, well, very good. Well, I got 2 pages full, so that's very good. Troy, do you want to take a minute and anything else that we want to add?
Your target was on the top of my list.
Oh, cool. Nice. Thank you.
You mentioned it too, so it's good.
You ready, Mayor?
Yep.
Mayor and City Council, thank you. We're going to talk about boards and appointments here for a second, upcoming responsibilities each member of the council has. But in discussing this morning with the mayor, we thought we might dig a touch deeper than just a one-page policy on appointments. Here's just kind of a snapshot view of our government. Before us here is a city council, which includes the mayor as a council member. So in talking about boards and commissions today, on the left side of the screen there, the city council is our legislative body, and boards and commissions report up through the legislative side. So these are a function of the city council. On the left is the mayor and the directors and the day-to-day operations of the city, and under our code we have committees that actually report through the director's side. But tonight we're talking about boards and commissions primarily. So the purpose of a board and commission is to provide information and background and support to the city council. This is your board, your organization, to get information and guidance that you want from the community. The committees can spend more time investigating an issue than you might otherwise have the opportunity to spend. So as you think through that, part of the debate that's gone back and forth in the many years that I've been here is where are boards and commissions most appropriately, where do they most appropriately function? Councils have taken an extraordinary interest in a number of things. I mean, tonight we just heard every one of you well aware of, focused on, and on top of plans the city is putting together. So do we need other committees and commissions looking at them or not? And that's a question for the council. Also, the committees or boards and commissions are generally made up of citizen volunteers. And you see on there, not experts. Often we feel inclined to find somebody that's an expert. Well, we have paid experts in the back there, and they're going to give expert direction and guidance to you as a city council. What you're looking for is the average Springville citizen. What are they interested in parks or in the utilities or in the community as you work with these boards and commissions? Okay. So as we look at it, the mayor's given each of you assignments for the 3 primary boards that were created 2 years ago: Parks, Arts and Recreation, Community, and the Utility Board. I've got the duties up there. Community is on the next page, and we'll go there. But just take a note that the assignments given are very, very narrow to your board, to your boards. Really, the only thing Parks, Arts, and Recreation Board's been asked to look at is how do we allocate PAR dollars, and what are our long-term plans and policy matters related to parks and arts. Now, there's in each case other duties deemed appropriate and assigned by the mayor. That's where you as a council come together and say, hey, we'd really like our PAR board to focus on, an example, active transportation. That's something that's happened over the last year or two. Hey, let's dig in, focus on active transportation, and understand that a little bit better. So any questions on this so far? And here's community board. Again, very narrow scope of duties. Okay. So council committees are to help get the council's job done, not to help with the staff's job. Have no more committees than absolutely needed. That's from Carver, boards that make a difference. But in general, what does the council want to get from your boards and commissions? Now, this is something we're kind of snapping on you. It's really introspective. It's something you should be thinking about, that as you start working with these boards and committees, you'll be able to start saying and providing your vision there, but remembering always that you speak as a council. So I think you have to be very careful to walk into the utility board as a single member of the council and be like, we're doubling water rates or whatever you may have as a focus, if that's not where the council as a whole is. So really, there needs to be discussion here at that level. And in fact, you'll notice, and the mayor and I have talked about this, at the end of every agenda, work session and city council is an opportunity for the council to have those discussions. That's not something we've used a lot in the last couple of years, but I would recommend that you consider that so that you as a council stay on the same page as you work both with internal boards and commissions, but also the external ones that you work with. All right, so what we really wanted to talk to about tonight is the process to fill appointments. If you look in front of you, each of you has a little packet that has this kind of black borders on the front. Your assignments are on the front, and we're going to talk about this front page a little bit beyond that. But one of your responsibilities, if you turn to the internal pages, are the actual people that serve on the different boards and commissions of the city. So kind of the second page there is Board of Adjustments.
Could I stop
Yeah,
you for
please,
just a
go ahead.
second? Just let's go back to the very front page.
Yeah.
As we have reports over the last couple of years, we've kind of let these 3 boards settle in, if you will. And I think that it would be really good if, I'll only use this as an example, is that when Craig and Logan may be making a report to us, they do that, every quarter, that we ask questions in relationship to how's Utah Valley Power System going? You know, to where we get just a little bit more in depth. Were you going to get into that? Maybe not.
This is great. Go ahead.
Yeah, to where we find out, how the solid waste district is doing, and so that the rest of the council has as much information and understanding as you do. Sometimes we've said, I really don't have anything, utility board's doing great. And I agree with that, but I think that if we can take it a little bit deeper in talking about some of these areas of responsibility, just to help us stay up to date, so that when things do happen, that we've got all the information. So we're going to try and do that just a little bit more when we have those reports done. So
One other thing, if I could, on my category, the middle one there, the Active Transportation Ad Hoc Committee is no longer, they've dissolved,
Correct.
and the Art Board is not listed there. I know the Art Board's a little bit different than other boards, but
No,
because they're
it belongs
associated
on-
with a museum, they need to be there, so.
Yeah, and the Utah Lake Commission also
gonna say.
is now gone as well. It's in a different format.
It's an
but
authority now.
It's an
and we're
authority
not
now,
on it.
and we will eventually have a voice on that board, but this cycle we do not.
How long are those cycles?
For the Utah Lake Authority, it was, are they 1 or 2? I think they're 2-year cycles.
yeah, I think it's 2 years. Yep.
Well, most of the other boards, half the members of the board are 2 year. I mean, it rotates every 2 years, just like the council does. So
Correct.
half the membership goes away, and a
Right.
new half comes in, and it rotates.
Yeah, and that's what we want to touch on. If you turn to any of the interior pages and look at a board or a commission that may impact you, you can see term ends that fully half of our appointed positions within the city are expiring here on April 1st. And so there are actually 35 board appointments that need to be filled, and the mayor is soliciting your help to ensure those are filled. And that's what we want to talk about here is that process. This process is a policy that's been in place for a couple of years now. But the mayor has asked for council members to assist in creating a list of potential names of the position and submitting those to the mayor. Now, these are mayor's appointments that are approved by the city council, but he's granting some significant authority back to the council to come up with recommended names to provide to the mayor. So staff will assist in this to whatever extent you want. They can come up with some suggestions if you need it. They can help you with some of the procedural aspects of how this works and help you work through the process and the policy associated with it. We also have people that submit online for that. Those are accumulated, and Kim told me today that we have a few for Parks and Recreation Board, people that are interested in serving. Those are forwarded on to each of you council members if they've expressed approach or interest in any of those boards.
Troy,
Yeah.
can I just interrupt while we're talking about that part of it? Is there any plan to broadcast that we need people to apply?
That's a good reminder. We normally do that, and we can easily do that through both social media and the newsletter. So
Yeah, I think that'd be very helpful.
Yeah, let me just add something to this, and I have to be careful because I don't want it misunderstood, but sometimes the silent majority are silent, and we need to ferret them out to be part of the board. And I'm not afraid for diversity of opinion, as long as it's my opinion. No, I'm just kidding. No, but diversity is okay. I'm not worried about that, but sometimes people become very active and want to get involved, and there's a reason, there's an axe they want to grind. So you have to be very careful as you work through this, so that as people say, well, I want to be a part of it, well, you want to vet them some way so that I have a chance to be able to know who they are, and that we get the kind of committees that we really want to have done, so.
yeah, and that's the important part of that third bullet that's up there right then. That really, let's refrain from certainly promising people a board or commission appointment, but realistically, because they're a mayor's appointment, you're going to want his blessing before you approach people and say, hey, are you willing to serve on a particular board or commission?
To Mayor's point, though, I think we have to seek them out. I think of specifically the Planning Commission. I mean, you want diversity on that because otherwise all you'd get are the zealots, one way or the other, so to speak.
And diversity is a very broad in that sense. I mean,
is.
geographic diversity of ideas, certainly. But that's something that I've heard over the years, that we tend to get pockets of, oh, well, like 4 members of this board are all within 2 blocks of each other. And we've had people come and say, hey, well, the Westfield's not really represented, and so forth.
Well, and Patrick, I'm really interested, like we talked about the other day, of figuring out the process of when we receive emails from people that would like to be that. I want to know how that vetting happens, you know,
Yeah, so-
and how that.
So that specifically, as those come in, the recorder sends that person a note saying, hey, we've received your application, and if there's an opening, you may be contacted. But those applications are then forwarded to you for this process. The challenge associated with it is, while there are openings that do get filled throughout the years when people may have to move or have other responsibilities that cause them to have to resign, this is the time that 95+% of those positions get filled. So if you're not kind of asking or submitting kind of right in this period, your chance of ending up on a board or commission are almost nil.
So all those emails go to Kim?
They do.
And she'll send those out to each of the councils so that we're aware that, yeah. If they say, I'd like to be on the art board, okay,
You
well,
send them out that they just want to volunteer, and then we have these names, and then we can vet them or whatever.
Okay.
yep.
And so they'll fill out, and that's on the detailed, on your actual written page, there's an application associated with that. Normally, people that are filling it out online fill out the application, so you have a little bit of a understanding of when they're available and what their background is a little bit. And we ask them to fill that out after you've found people, just so we have names and addresses and telephone numbers. But you'll also see on there that the mayor reserves the right to interview people, and you're certainly welcome to go through whatever process you would like to do to make sure that that people are in line with what you're hoping to see on the boards.
Yeah, and I just add this, longevity is a wonderful thing, but also new ideas is also a great thing. And so I've just, as a rule of thumb, and it's purely a rule of thumb, is if they've served 2 4-year terms, that's 8 years, usually it's a good time to rotate. And it doesn't have to be, but,
Actually, it does.
oh, okay,
When
well,
we passed the
thank you.
ordinance in June of 2022, for the first time, the city council did install in there a term limit. It's 10 years,
Okay.
but generally it says 2 terms. But there is a possibility, for example, right now, several of our commissions and board
Right.
members have served 2 years as we've spun them up. So it's possible they could be reappointed twice. Just to work through the rest of this, the matter is placed on the city council agenda for the council's consent. And once we get council's consent, the new board member gets information about their term and what their duties are and how that works. So again, staff will help carry most of the administrative burden, if you will, of how this happens. Your responsibility as council members are to come up with those names and to kind of reinforce what the mayor says. Please work diligently not to simply say, oh, this person's already here, I'll just reappoint them. Take a look seriously at who they are. So a couple details along the lines of what the mayor just touched on. So I'm going to touch quickly on 5A1, which is the code section in the Springville City Code. These boards have between 7 and 13 members. So as you look through there, we have different numbers. So you may want to talk to whoever, if you're on the utility board, it's Logan and Craig. Are you on the utility board? So the two of you may want to talk and say, hey, is the number that we have on there of 9 right? Should we add a few more people to that board or commission? Do we have too many on Parks, Arts, and Rec? Should we start slimming that down? You have some broad authority there. The mayor can even authorize going outside of those numbers if you want. As we just touched on, you can't serve for more than 10 consecutive years. Really, the only requirement to be on there is that they are residents of Springville City. Now, occasionally, that raises some questions. Business owners often are not residents of the city. Our current code requires them to be residents. So if that's something that we need to or would like to change, just keep that in mind, because that's a requirement of the code there. And then just noted that this was in here, that's not something we've done in the last couple of years, but we do have the opportunity to put young people between the ages of 15 and 18 on a board, let them participate in non-voting positions. That's something maybe we should talk to the youth city council about and see if some of those youth would be interested in that.
Did you say non-voting positions on those youth?
That's right, they're non-voting.
Speaking of, I mean, I didn't realize it until I attended a couple of meetings and was going, we don't have votes.
We don't
That's
vote.
correct. The city council members also are non-voting.
Now, some of the other ones we do, though. Like
The art
South
board
Utah
is a
Valley.
little bit different.
The
It's
art
a
board is-
different kind of a board, and so we do have a vote on the
Yeah,
art
so
board.
when
but-
we're talking community, utility, and Parks, Arts, and Recreation, you do not vote on those. Library
Utah
board, you don't,
Valley.
or they don't either. And the Historical Society. So everything under Title V, you don't. Same for Planning Commission, you actually don't even sit on the Planning Commission. The other boards where you're representing the city outside of the city, so Southern Utah Valley Power System, Southern Utah Valley Municipal Water Systems, the Art Board, and others, you do vote because you're representing the city's interest. And that's why it's so important to keep the council in the loop so that you're very comfortable that you're speaking on behalf of the council as you're exercising your vote there. So quickly, just a couple other things to raise and to potentially have some discussion about. We got close to it, but on that first page again, there are these kind of sub-assignments. And so I'm just raising the issue for the mayor and then at council as needed, both in community and utility primarily and in Parks, Arts, and Rec with the Art Board. We probably need to decide, to my knowledge, those assignments haven't been made yet. So
Correct.
do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, I do. And so I'm open for your suggestion, like on the utility board, who's going to cover these different areas. You just let me know what your thoughts are. And
So I'm the chair of SFUMA, which, I mean, it says we meet every month, but we meet maybe 4 times a year because we just don't have much going on. But I'm okay staying the chair of SFUMA just because Lonnie likes staying on that board. South Utah Valley Solid Waste, I mean, I've been there just 4 years. First 2 years, Brett was there. There's a lot going on there right now, obviously, as the new facility opens. It looks like you've put me and Mike on that. If Mike wants some insight, it'd be great, but
Where are you seeing that? Because that may be.
that's page 8 of 8. I'm on the last page.
I don't think those have been updated yet.
Okay, all
So
right.
Those
Okay,
are
so
like
red.
alternate.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
okay.
so I just encourage Craig and Logan to get together and kind of have a discussion as to what you'd like to do. And Jake, I'll work with you on these assignments up here. The same thing with Parks, Arts and Recreation.
Par's easier to say.
Yeah, thank you. If you and Mindy would just kind of have a discussion, kind of what you want to do on
Yeah,
that.
that's
So,
going to be a tough discussion.
okay, I
And then
figured so.
another one, just for clarification, because I don't think it's changed, but compensation, there's no compensation for any of our boards. And I mean, like maybe donuts if they're
Right.
really lucky.
Yeah, we try or encourage the departments to kind of annually do something nice. I mean, have a dinner or what, but there's no
I
compensation.
think that's key for us to understand, especially when some of these board members are spending significant time putting things together for them. So that's good.
All right. Each of your boards, by code, should elect a chair and vice chair. And the code says that the same person cannot fill that same role 2 years in a row. So that's actually an annual thing, according to the code. So we should be, as you're starting to meet here in January or February, probably having discussions about electing your chair and vice chair for your boards. Again, those are the internal boards, utility, PAR, and,
So did you say 2 years?
So
They can go 2, just not 3.
no, it says one.
So every year they get a new one? Oh
So
dear.
every year we get a new chair.
That's what the code says. Again, it's your
Oh.
code. We can
Yeah.
change that, but that's what it says in there.
That may have merit
Yeah,
to change it, but
yeah.
not sure what years.
We could take a look at it. I'll make a note and talk about it tomorrow
Okay.
with the directors. And then meeting times. I've heard a couple of people talk about, wow, why do we meet so late or so early? Just, there are no set meeting times, so your boards and commissions can choose those. We have some traditional times, like Planning Commission has met at a certain time for the last 30 plus years, maybe longer than that. So some of them are traditional, but they're all subject to what your boards want to do. So be aware you can make adjustments there. And I think that's the training and the top.
Just make sure that you're present when the board decides to make a schedule change. Make sure you're there to at least put your 2 cents worth in.
Right.
Emily, what are you laughing at?
Apparently that changed. Since we're here, let's double check what I just told you about.
I thought it was 2 years, but it's every other year then, or every year. Is that what you're looking up? That?
Yeah, because I was like, I mean, it was only a year ago, and you're like, wow, there's all this stuff in here.
Well, that's true. We just combined them a year ago. I just know that like Mark has been it for 2 years.
No, 2 years we did.
Oh well, then we're in violation.
In 2 years.
I know, right? Hey,
For terms of 2, it is 2.
so it is 2.
Each board shall elect its own chair and vice chair and shall appoint all other officers necessary for terms of 2 years. And then it says no member may serve consecutive terms as chair. So you should be creating new, and often, I mean, traditionally, it's common that a vice chair becomes the chair, but we don't have that rule in place. So
Yeah,
however-
and I would just go back to these people that are terming. You may want to touch base with Troy or myself, because sometimes these were created and we put some of them 2 years because we didn't want everybody to be 4 years, like the community board. Everybody's brand new.
All of them are that way.
All of them.
those 3. So the utility
okay.
board, community board, and PAR, everyone that's expiring has only served for 2 consecutive years. Right.
Okay. Okay.
Now, there are people that have been on Power Board
Just
before
water
that.
board or power. Even Claire Anderson could still serve another 8 years.
Yeah.
How long has he been serving?
Well, I was on the city council in
27.
'94, and he was on this.
Yeah, he's been there for decades.
Okay.
That's
Anything
all.
else? Okay, questions for Troy that you may have about this? Mindy?
Yes, so I just have a question. So on the boards that we've been assigned, is that for our full term, or is that subject to change at mayor's discretion?
Mayor discretion every 2 years. And technically, the mayor could make changes and come to you for consent, but historically, it's been 2-year terms.
Okay.
Okay.
I've got a question for Troy, but it's sidebar. I mean, what are we doing on the director stuff? That email that we saw right before the holidays.
Yeah, so,
Anything going on there?
yeah, so there's a position open right now, actually, some interviews this week.
Oh, cool.
So that we're also
We
moving.
are moving forward with that.
Yeah,
I just
we're,
I didn't know. I hadn't seen anything, and I didn't want. I'm like, oh, I'll just ask in public.
yeah, it is.
So if I put you on the spot, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so that what we're talking about is a director of engineering and facility or internal services, I don't like facility services. Director of engineering and internal services. So we've shuffled some internal reporting responsibilities and created a director position so that we can focus on those internal services and, as we heard today, community development side of it, that the engineering component of community development is a service organization, if that makes sense, that they're not kind of being split between the demands of public works and community development, that they're focused on that resource specifically.
Now, is that position going to be filled internally, or are we looking outside to fill that, or?
All director positions by policy are posted. We do have an internal candidate and 2 external candidates. I'm happy to take more questions on that or other things, but I thought I might touch on the leave question on the public comment before.
That'd be great.
Yeah, especially since we have a new council. We've administratively, at least in the last 25 years, never denied a request for unpaid leave, not a single one. So that's one that hasn't spun up to our area. And I know our Director of Administrative Services, Patrick, has talked to me, and he's been actively working and looking at as a benefit to new employees, preloading PTO for the exact issue that was described tonight, that if somebody has a sickness or whatever, they would be able to access that pool. Because another side of things that we have also not violated in the last 20 or 25 years, we've never let people go negative on their benefits, meaning kind of pre-use paid leave. And that's something we can always look at, but we've kind of consistently said, no, we're not going to let you go negative, but we've also never denied an unpaid leave request. And it's a valid concern. We have other policies that are we encourage our employees to not come to work sick, and that's obviously been repeated many, many times the last few years with COVID being out there. So we'll also talk to the supervisors and see a little more detail what the story behind this one is.
Yeah, is there a cultural feel that it's like, yeah, you can take unpaid leave, but be careful because you might lose your job?
Oh, and that's the other component of it. We've also never terminated anybody for being sick in the sense of, hey, I've just got a cold and I can't come to work today kind of thing. We do require a doctor's note if you've been absent in excess of 3 days for that. We didn't do that during COVID because the state recommended we didn't do that because of how busy things were at the doctor's offices. But yeah, that's the current status of our policies there.
So if they don't have PTO, and they can't go negative, they just get unpaid.
Yeah, that would be the option, and that's why one of many reasons we're discussing getting some on the books for people that start right away. The other thing is I mean, while we have very generous leave policies, it does take a while to accrue things up. So if, say you start in March and you've got a vacation schedule with your family, you won't be able to get kind of that week off built up in 2 or 3 months. And so by kind of putting some on the books for them, that's a positive. This is also a real switch in kind of employee versus employer kind of basis, because you put the city at pretty good risk by doing this. There are potential costs associated with people that come and leave pretty quickly, and then you're paying out leave that they haven't really earned yet, depending on how you write your policies and so forth. So that's very much an employee-sided benefit that you're looking at, which is where the market's at right now. It's much more employee-focused than employer-focused today.
And we talked about this, and maybe it's not a good place to do it, but we also talked to, where I used to work, you know, you got wrestling between sick leave and vacation. We just said, phooey, you know, we're just going to throw it all together and just give you time off. We don't care whether so people aren't calling in sick and going fishing. And I mean, it just got away from it. And it actually was a marvelous thing to do. And people just have control over those times, and they can bank them and whatever. So
yeah, the interesting thing there is we have about 80+% of our employees on paid time off. We still have upwards of a quarter of our employees on traditional vacation and sick leave that haven't transferred to our new benefits plan.
I thought everybody was on
No,
that.
and actually very few. There's still only a handful of cities across the state that are on a pure PTO system. From a management standpoint, love PTO. From a person that's generally healthy, love PTO, but we have other people that prefer the traditional system. All new employees are on our Vanguard system, which is a PTO based.
I didn't know that. Thank you. Other questions? He's the only one that doesn't get nervous when he's up at that point.
He knows the answers.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
There are nerves there, but they are less than they were 20 years ago.
Okay, great. Well, I simply say to Jake and Mindy and Logan, if you haven't learned now, you're going to learn really quickly that, we have some wonderful directors and wonderful employees. And they just do such a marvelous job, and their heart is in the right place. And I truly appreciate working with them. I've just gained such a respect for them. And many of them are here, some aren't, but just really have a lot of respect for them and want them to know is that we recognize that they truly want to do what's right. And as you get to know them, hopefully that appreciation will become stronger. So anyway, okay, anything else that needs to be reviewed, talked about? If not, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
A motion we end this meeting.
I'll second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed.
I was hoping to get